Bottom right in the red. That teamless Terran that Roddy's been talking up so much. It's Coffee.
He has played a decent amount of ladder games on Europe, and he often gets very high as well while playing from China, like 6.3, 6.4K with that latency. That's honestly very impressive. In the top left side, we are looking at the main base of the man who's the underdog coming into this best of 3, but I know him as a kind of crazy Zerg, so I hope he's got something special up his sleeve. This is our Zerg from Hong Kong, GogojOey. Do we call them Hongkonese biomorph? Is that a thing?
Hong Kongers?
Hong Kongers? Could be. I don't know. I'm asking
Something
you.
like that. I feel like this is something I knew at one point, but that's about it. I don't got much for you, Roddy. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna Google it.
Important things. Then, if you Google, I will talk. But it's kind of funny, actually. You've been talking about Coffee a little bit, and I don't know. I'm brought to mind the way you're talking about Coffee. Like, oh man, if we saw him in Europe and North America, he'd be so good. Back of like 2014, 2015, when we were first starting to get 2013, when we were first starting to get those Chinese players, we had Jim and Max Ed coming across, and there was all this hype about, wow, these players, this hyperbolic Chinese time chamber, how good are they going to be? And it turned out they weren't actually all that credible, or actually. I mean, they were good, but they weren't dumpstering the Koreans level good that we thought they might be. So, seems like we're finally getting there, though. We do have Oliveira. Coffee takes down Zhao and Katowice. Was, Roddy, when everyone was talking about this, and I think this was actually you and Bitter, you and Mr. Bitter for the most part, was your prognostication just 7 years too early?
No, and I think we just liked having good Chinese players, and they were very easy to cheer for because they were very kind. It was always a pleasure having them over at the NHL studio, so I just had a lot of love for Maxed and Jim, but it was quite obvious that they were somewhat limited. But I also think back then, especially when they had to play online, the latency was even worse, as this first Reaper, by the way, is just going to town. What is that? 3 Zergling kills already? That's actually very good. At least not a drone went down for GogojOey, but yeah, the TLDR, we were just fans. We liked those guys, but we obviously knew that they weren't as good as even some of the best players in the foreign region. They were able to compete, but they were not better. I would be lying if I said I saw the Oliveira World Championship coming, BO, and I still stand by it that anybody else who saw it coming is also lying, because sure, we knew he was good, but he also attended the DreamHack Masters Atlanta like 6 months, 5 months prior, and he didn't win a single map in Atlanta. So who predicts a guy that goes 0-6 in Atlanta to then become the world champ? Like, that's just crazy. I do not believe anybody actually predicting that, BO, and I'll stand by it.
Now, you know what? I will stand by the fact that in the green room, I was saying that it felt like Oliveira had like this aura of fate around him. I didn't believe it, but I will say that I was kind of saying, okay, it feels like the fate is on his side at this point. But that's about as close as I got. As Coffee, well, he's opening pretty standard here. The Reaper, as you talked about, is getting so much done. Even getting 3 lings early is fantastic. And behind this, well, yeah, again, pretty standard. Hellion's on the way, third base, Banshee play, but with the acumen that he's shown with this Reaper, it's gonna be interesting to see if he could get a similar amount of damage done with these Banshees.
Yeah, so far it's just looking good from Coffee's side, right? He's just clean. You can really see that he's got like expendable APM, where it's like, all right, this phase in the game, I've done it time and time again. I know how to macro, I know how to execute, and it's like I don't really have anything else to do because I am good enough that I don't make any slip-ups when it comes to missing SCV production or missing a depot. Nope, I can do all of that, and I'm gonna be as annoying as possible with my Reaper, so at least I can stay busy and keep the hands warm. This game is really going to heat up once the Banshees make it over to the other side of the map. Coffee is obviously not going to suicide these Hellions for no good reason. And then it really comes down to how good will the defense of GogojOey be, right? This is the opening and the build order that we've seen time and time again, and it truly is one that just comes down to execution. Knowledge both of these guys will have of this build. It just comes down to who executes better.
Yeah, good news for Coffee is that or GogojOey is that he's doing the things that we expect him to do, right? 4:30, spores go down, you're there in time, you're ready in time for any sort of Banshees to show up. He's got queens where they need to be for the most part, 3 queens on the north side, creep, overlords ahead of the creep. So he's all battened down. And the interesting thing actually that we do need to point out is that there is no layer, right? That has not been started. Instead, the first 200, 250 gas that GogojOey has, it's going for upgrades. even before a Baneling Nest here. So this is very quick 1-1 melee, 1-1 Carapace upgrades coming down for our Zerg player, which means that if GogojOey tries to hit some pretty quick timing out of that, these Lings, they're going to fight a little bit better than you would expect. But on the flip side, this fourth base is dead.
Yeah, very important that he cancels it. Obviously, you don't want to lose all the extra minerals. Couple of drones going down to the Hellions. As I said, execution. This is a dance we've seen time and time again. But Coffee is just playing at a higher pace so far than GogojOey is, BMO. 12 drones have gone down. Cancel on the fourth base. Good news, obviously, for GogojOey is that he does get all the Hellions, but the Banshees, they are still full on HP. Coffee is looking really good here, and you did mention the upgrades, and that's obviously awesome for GogojOey, but the downside of focusing on these upgrades is that your lair is later. That means later Overseers, so defending Banshees is harder, and also much later Baneling speed. And that means you're gonna have to fight a bunch of Marines and a tank with probably slow Banelings. Good luck, have fun doing that on Babylon.
I mean, technically, you can be pretty okay with this. You get 4 spores instead of 3. You kind of put that 4th one between the natural and the 3rd, and it gives you the opportunity. But GogojOey didn't do that, and that meant he lost his 4th base. He lost 22 drones. He was not in position. Everything's out of whack, and yeah, Baneling speed's on the way now, and it's not going to be that much later compared to when it might otherwise be. But the problem is, he's had to spend 24 more larvae on building an economy that's honestly not even all that great right now. So this push coming out of Coffee, when his 1-1 is done, when his combat shields are done, oh, it's going to be horrifying. And the Banshees, they stayed alive. You can bring them back, repair them, bring them into the push.
I gotta say, it's very ambitious that GogojOey has 6 Banelings in the bottom side of the map after losing all these drones. You'd kind of think that he needs all these units to defend, but he is still thinking about dealing some economic damage on the other side of the map, and I gotta give him kudos for that. Does force a very early pickoff on these first 16 or so Marines. Now even makes a few more drones. This man really does have some confidence against 1-1 bio. Maybe he just knows that Coffee is going to take it a little bit slower if he has a good start, because he doesn't want to take any damage from run buys. Let's see if GogojOey can get away with it. He's not playing poor, but it just feels that Coffee is playing once more at a slightly higher pace and is executing at a higher level.
I mean, Roddy, the good news here is the Banshees, they're going to try to cancel another base. This time, though, there should be detection. Meanwhile, Banelings, did they? Yeah, they tried. They got 2 workers for how many Banes? That's just really not enough. But the good news, you talked about that timing where there would be no Baneling speed, and the Marines, they're hitting hard. That timing's over. GogojOey was really not all that late on the Baneling speed whatsoever, so he's working to get these rocks down. Coffee's not going to let him do that, surely not. But he's got his upgrades. They're ahead of the Terrans, at least now they're equal, but they will get 2-2 faster. Hydras are on the way. He's finally starting to go up a little bit in supply, so if he can hold on to this push coming in from Coffee, feels like he's actually not in that bad of a spot.
Now, if he gets a good fight here, then he's in a very playable spot. We've got a lot of Lings on the other side of the map going for a monstrous counter. Let's go ahead and take a look. Coffee left plenty of units behind. There is a bunker. 1 tank will get picked off. GogojOey, mate, we do need to make sure that we get a good fight on our side of the map, though, because if you lose this hatchery, if you lose this army, the game is over. But he does have 83 drones, sends a couple of Marauders forward. Now the Lings turn around. Micro on the side of Coffee is spectacular, though. Banelings don't even get close to connecting with these Marines, and Coffee is just honestly looking very, very good. The only thing he could have done is fire up those 2-2 upgrades a bit quicker, because his 1-1 was actually quick. Armory was done. He was a little late with starting those, but Coffee is in full control here in game 1. It looked promising for Joey. BMO, I do understand what you were saying, because if he would have had a good fight here, then he's got 2-2 upgrades, he's got a 25 drone lead, and it would have been a very exciting game, but he just did not take a good fight at all.
No, he didn't. Imagine how much better that fight would have been if there's 30, 40 Lings, whatever it was. Instead of running for a counterattack that didn't get a lot done, they're actually, the entire breadth of that army is now sweeping from behind, and you have a full surround, and it works out a little bit better as the Banelings, they run forward, but the tanks don't go down, the Marines don't go down, and now down at the ramp here. 2-2's done for the Zerg, but it's not gonna matter because, well, base is gonna fall, and that Coffee can back up this point if he wants. It doesn't seem like he's going to, but he has found all the damage he needs.
Yep, no, he will probably just keep on pushing, but make sure he doesn't do something silly with the tanks. This is still an army that is obviously amazing, but if the tanks are not sieged and the Marines are not steamed, yeah, then Baneling's gonna have a very good time against it. So Coffee does still need to tread somewhat carefully, but he has pretty much locked this game up. The 2-2 upgrades are gonna finish up for him as well, as GogojOey is trying to morph a couple of desperation Banelings in. He needs a few more, doesn't really have the economy anymore. Gets a good engagement though on the top side. Those painting connections were sweet. Can the paintings from the bottom left side connect with the Marines? The answer is no. Coffee has enough Marines left over to keep on pushing and probably close out this game. GogojOey looked alright. It's just that Coffee looked better.
Yeah, this was one of those fights where you gotta not just do well, you gotta kill the Terran. And the Coffee did not go down. In fact, he had all the energy from the coffee that he's been drinking or something like that. Coffee takes game 1.
Yep, traded very efficient. Zerg in a relatively short game lost 6,000 resources more. I did like that point though that you mentioned, because that link counterattack, like it's funny, right? Because sometimes that link counterattack is a great idea. If Coffee is rallying everything to the other side of the map, you pick up reinforcements and then maybe you get on top of SCVs as well, and then it's a brilliant move. But it almost like Coffee was expecting it to happen, so he actually left way more units at home than I think normally you would expect the Terran to leave at home. And yeah, maybe if GogojOey just full A moves on that army that was in the top left side, all those links come from the back, units come from the top left, and maybe through the rocks as well, then he actually would have been able to get a good fight, keep that hatchery alive, and we'd still be casting a video game right now. But yeah, I can't blame the man for trying to make some chaos happen on the other side of the map. It just seems that Coffee was one step ahead of him.
Yeah, and you talk about how good Coffee is. He's kind of showing it right now. He's playing well. That was okay. There was an opportunity there that you mentioned that GogojOey may have been able to make something happen, maybe, but he didn't, and Coffee was able to do a great job. But I mean, he got 22 drones early. He got 3 lings with that first Reaper. Every time he decided to do something proactive on the map, it felt like he was cutting through butter. It was it didn't feel like there was much opposition. So it's good to see that Coffee does maintain that form from IEM Katowice. But now, Roddy, as we move on to a map that is ostensibly maybe a bit better for the Zerg, it's a much bigger map in Gresfon. What do we need to see different from GogojOey here?
Well, we need to make sure that we don't lose 20 drones against the Hellions, right? That's just that's unacceptable in high-level TVC. We praised Coffee. We hyped him up a little bit. I think in the first game, he absolutely lived up to that expectation. I think if Coffee is playing just that effortlessly almost, is what it feels like, right? He just seems to be in full control, and he's like, all right, I can just go the extra mile with my little Reaper Micro, with my Hellions, because I have nothing else to do at this point. I'm waiting for all my barracks to finish up. I'm waiting for the Marines to enter the battlefield. Then I just think it's going to be very hard. This is a matchup that I think historically has been the most difficult matchup from both sides, both for the Zerg and for the Terran, to cause upsets if your opponent is better. PvP, we know it can be wild. There are builder advantages. ZVZ, you can get creative, you can get crazy. ZVP as well, I think you can do a lot of funny things with cutting drones, going for Zerg all-ins. That can work. Proxy hatch stuff. Protoss has a lot of dirty all-ins against Zerg. TVZ, it's just a matchup that really comes down to skill, where both sides can be very safe because they have a lot of information to work with. You kind of just have to outperform your opponent, and that's very difficult if your opponent is as good as Coffee.
Yeah, although, Roddy, I do want to push back. I wouldn't say that it comes down to skill. It comes down to mechanical skill, because build orders and mind games and all those are also skills. But yeah, you're right. It's comebacks, or not comebacks, upsets are hard, but let's see if the Juggernaut Zerg can make that happen, because Gresfon's here.
Yep, and he didn't look completely outclassed in that first game, because he did get up to 80-something drones. He had a lot of units. There was some potential for a great fight, so maybe we get some fireworks here on Gresfon. In the bottom right side, though, we're looking at the main base of the man who looked in control, looked confident, and he looked like the man that could very well be one of the players in this entire region to give Oliveira a little run for his money. This is a Chinese Terran player, Coffee.
And in the upper left in the blue for the Juggernauts, hopefully giving us a game number 3. We haven't had one today. I would really like one. It's GogojOey.
First, the 33 map dream is dead, then the 32 map dream is dead. Are you gonna tell me that the 31 map dream is dead as well, BMO? What is this? Can we even call this a day of casting if we only get between 25 and 30 games?
Absolutely. It's only 11 best of 3s, Roddy. I mean, come on. Like, I expected more. It's looking like I'm gonna be done before midnight.
Well, I don't think I will be, but we'll keep an eye on that. I think that this was one of the matchups, though, where coming into it, I did expect a 2-0. Like that PvP, I thought it had potential to go all 3 games, but Hans was deadly. I love how he was super macro-oriented game 1 and then super aggressive in game 2. This one, though, coming into it, I think a lot of the StarCraft 2 fans will expect a 2-0 for Coffee, just for all the reasons that we previously mentioned. But I'm sure you'll get your 2-1s later today, BO. I wouldn't be too concerned about it. It'd be very impressive if we have 11 2-0s, though, and we have a 22 map day instead.
You know what? That would also be if there's a curve, right, on what you expect. I don't know. We're 26 games, maybe something like that. That makes sense. But yeah, 22 on that outlier as well. As this Reaper dives in, does it get as much as it did earlier? Well, for now, no. It really shouldn't. The Queen, actually, you know what? The Queen still got a little bit of time here. So Reaper dives in, and normally we wouldn't be talking about this, but he got 3 lings last time. He's going to get 1 here. He's going to get a second. It seems like no third as the Queen pops out. So Coffee gets a solid 1/3 less, 1/3 less damage than he did from the Reaper early on. Does that mean that
2 more? Oh, can he get the 2 more with a grenade? Maybe no.
And he gets
that would have been big.
Oh yeah. And he gets the last link too. And I'm just sitting here like, oh, does that mean that GogojOey's in a better spot? Well, 3 kills anyways, doesn't matter.
I think he's always in a better spot though, because this is Greswan and the last game was Babylon, and Babylon Terran players, it's just a very happy marriage, man, especially the Terrans that love tanks. And I kind of think that if you picked Terran all these years ago, everybody loves tanks, as that 3 tumor does get picked off. Now there's still 1 more active tumor, but it's just another solid start here for Coffee, but it's always going to be a bit harder for him on this map than it is on the previous one, just because there are less choke points, less side blockers, less awkward terrain in the center of the map where it's difficult for Zerglings to get good fights against the Terran.
Yeah, that is certainly true, but that also means that we've gotten some of the best games of our, really, of the entire map pool on Gresfon, because it's big, it's expansive, it allows you to take the entire map, fights everywhere. The fun thing also is I don't know that we're going to see Coffee do this. I don't really have a good grasp of whether he's a mech player or a bio player. As they well, hold that thought. Hellions, Reapers are going to try to dive in, but it's only 2 Hellions, only 1 Reaper, so the Queen should be able to deal with this. 1 damage already gets done. Any follow-up shots here? No. Well, okay, it gets 1 drone, but it doesn't get much done here on the, and there we go. The Hellion will fall. This can be a fairly decent map for Mech Roddy, because you do have that 4th base. It dominates the middle of the map. It gives you the 2 bases on the north side. So if there was a matchup, if there was a map where we did see Coffee go for something a little bit different, this would be that map, but it's 430, no 3rd and 4th gas, so it seems like that's not all that likely.
No, I think everything you said is true, but I think Coffee is actually a bit more of a bio boy than he is a mech boy, just because he is excellent with Marine Tank. And we saw that in the TVP versus Zone on IM Katowice, and we saw that here in the first game as well. Much better start for GogojOey. Did not take too much damage from those 2 Hellions and the Reaper. And I think we have to give a little shout out to that 1 Queen and the thick butt that accidentally trapped that Hellion between the mineral patch and, well, the ramp there. So good that that Queen has a couple of extra pounds on it, because otherwise if the 2 Hellions would have snuck through, then a few drones were still exposed. You gotta love the thick butt, Bio.
Accidentally, I'm gonna give GogojOey the benefit of the doubt here and say that was on purpose. That was a fantastic. There we go. But Lings, they're gonna try to find their way in onto the other side. Hellions forced back home, so they really don't have nearly the amount of map control that Coffee had in game number 1. So the creep is going out pretty nicely. And again, we're seeing GogojOey, this very quick 1-1 idea, delayed lair, delayed Bailey nest. But Ling upgrades, Ling Bane upgrades going well apace. So this is Gresfon though. This is a map that it is far more likely that works out, especially as the Hellions and the Banshees have not killed 22 drones.
And this is very exciting, right? Because that last game, at one point, we're like, okay, it's going to be painful as the 2 Cloak Banshees are battling the Queen and the drones there. Nice micro by Coffee. Maybe a little bit of luck involved there, because 1 Banshee's down to 2 HP, but still so far so good. It's just GogojOey is doing the same thing as he did before, but he's off to a much better start. He's bleeding out a couple drones here, but it's a lot later than when all the Hellions killed those 22 drones. And on top of that, this is not 22 drones. We are now looking at 7 drones going down. So that's just exciting, man, because GogojOey showed us that he does find good spots to macro, crank out a couple of extra drones. He's got APM to find some damage with Lings and Banelings. Honestly, pretty exciting setup here as the Lings are going to run into the third base of Coffee. Can we take a little look at what Coffee has there? Oh, he's working on a beautiful little supply depot wall, and that makes his life easier.
That it does. The Banshees, they get out, by the way. One on literally 2 HP, as you said. But now there's the fourth base. Actually, yeah. Wow, that's a really interesting fourth base from GogojOey, but fourth base up nonetheless. Normally we see the Zergs take this as their fifth, and they take this one as the fourth, but GogojOey just really wants to get the creep spread towards the Terran base as quick as possible, make sure that he has a bit better of an opportunity. But now here come Marines and Hellions. Banelings are not ready. Lings are not there. Wow. And this is a bit of a scary timing. So Lings, they're going to run forward. They have their upgrades. Marines don't, not for another 8 seconds. But there's nothing to follow up. The Banelings are not ready just yet. So Spore gets targeted down. Queen's taking some damage, but the Spore goes down. And it seems like this will be enough to force Coffee back. It's only 4 drones going down. Feels like that could have been much worse.
Absolutely, and I thought it was going to be a lot worse. So good job there by GogojOey. Nice crisis management. Obviously has those 2 upgrades on the way. Coffee does not have an armory yet. Because I was actually checking. I was like, can these Hellions morph into Hellbats? And nope, armory wasn't done yet. He does plant it down right now as we speak. But it obviously means that he is going to fall behind in upgrades down the line. And this time around, he doesn't have that absolutely amazing start like he had in that previous game. Much more playable scenario for GogojOey, but needs to be careful because he's probably going to be forced to take a fight on the edge of creep, and the tank positioning of Coffee is very nice though.
The one thing we do have to pay attention to here, Roddy, is Lings are going to find their way in, as most of the Marines, they're just picked up here. So this tank position that you're talking about, it's dead, it's gone. Marines, they try to eat some of the Banelings, but it's not going to work out super well. Here come the reinforcements though, and it is an 8 rags. Here on the biggest map in the pool, Coffee just wants to shovel, to absolutely muscle his way through. Banelings, well, they're just getting targeted down.
There are 6 Banelings on the map, 4 more Banelings morphing, but that's probably not enough against this many Marines. Coffee's macro is honestly sick when it comes to cranking out as many Marines as possible. We now have 54 Marines out on the map, only 8 Banelings. A couple of Banelings going to try to connect. The splits have been excellent by Coffee throughout this Vessel 3 so far. He does it again. I think GogojOey is in a bit of trouble. Got some money in the bank. He could technically evacuate this hatchery, wait for the 2 upgrades, but this is obviously painful because on the other side of the map, Coffee is also still macroing, right? Dropping another CC, saturating bases, getting on top of more Banelings as well, and these Hydras, they just look harmless.
Yeah, it's so satisfying to see an 8-Rax get so much damage done where it's like, yeah, you know, this actually was just a macro build. It's transitionary. I'm going to get my 4th base at a not as quick, but still pretty decent time. These Lings Banes, they're going to try to find their way in, but there is just not enough room here. The splits are fantastic now. Lings get on top of the Hydras. They cannot take this fight, so more Hydras will fall. The Banelings, hey, they pop up, and we continue that ebb and flow. The Banelings, now they run forward. Tank will fall, but every time the Terran maintains their emplacement here, every time more damage happens, even as Coffee is forced back just a little bit. It's a 4-base Zerg. 4th base again, just about done for GogojOey, and this army that our Terran has, well, you know, supplies are not that far. If these Banelings could pop out, but I'm not sure how many of them we're actually going to get.
Yeah, the last 25 seconds were a bit better for GogojOey because we could really see the impact that these upgrades have on some of these fights, but that was a bit on creep as well. Now we are off creep, and that means it's so much harder for these Banelings to connect. The Hydras, they honestly have ran out of support, right? It's pretty much just Hydras and Queens right now, and we are obviously not too far away from these Marines getting their 2 upgrades as well. There is a misrally tank there in the center. It is important that Coffee saves that. You don't want to be bleeding out tanks randomly because that is when you will allow your opponent to stabilize. I think Coffee can just take a small moment for himself, wait for the upgrade disadvantage to disappear, and then he can continue pushing, and I think he will be able to close out the game rather convincingly. But good job there by GogojOey, putting up a fight, and actually lovely timing here right before that planetary fortress is done. Finds a few SCVs, but I'm afraid it's all a little bit too late for GogojOey.
Yeah, I mean, on it, the supplies are not bad. It's a Zerg that has equal army supply with the Terran, and you know what they say about Lings and Banes on creep and supply efficiency. I mean, this supply fights above its weight right now with this army that GogojOey has, so long as he stays on creep and can take a decent fight. The problem is his economy is not that great. Only 68 workers, only actually a little bit less than that as a drop on the left side, and he can't take a fight through the center. This concave on the high ground and the low ground causing so many issues. Now the drop gets dealt with, and actually no Marines get out, so at least that's something. More Queens continue to fall down, and you talked about just Coffee taking a little bit of time for himself. That supply gap is continuing to increase. He's up 6 workers now. He's got his 3-3 on the way. So that decision to pull back a little bit seems like it's working out pretty well for him.
Yeah, obviously he's just producing a ridiculous amount of units. GogojOey is going to run off creep there for a split second. Does have a counterattack happening, by the way. We can see what these Lings can get done. Unfortunately, these Lings don't have the upgrade advantage anymore. So just these Marines is going to be good enough. GogojOey's army is a bit clumped up there. So if these tank shots land in the middle of the Banelings, this could very well be the final fight of this game. GogojOey has tried. He has tried to battle his way back into it, but it just seems that Coffee's macro is too good. Coffee's micro is too good. And don't forget, there is no hive, no saving unit on the production tab for GogojOey. Coffee gets a convincing